Hello, welcome to Indiana Mommy Cooking from the Heartland. On this episode, I'm going to show you how I make beef and rice stuffed bell peppers. Alright, to get started, we're going to prep our bell peppers. You could use green bell peppers, red, yellow, orange. It really doesn't matter. Whatever ones you have on hand would work. I will say that the red, orange, and yellow taste a bit sweeter than the green. The green has a little bit more of a bitter flavor, which is actually nice and more of a traditional way to make this. So many people, when they make stuffed peppers, just cut the tops off the peppers and use an entire pepper. I find that that's quite a bit of pepper to eat per serving, so I like to cut them in half lengthwise and only use half per serving. So that's why you're seeing me prep it this way. I'm just removing the core, the membranes, and the seeds. So when you're making stuffed peppers, the peppers take longer to cook than the filling. So you want to give them a jump start. So what I'm doing is I'm going to roast the peppers in the oven at 425 degrees for 25 minutes. I'm coating them with a little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper. And basically this is going to give them a jump start on cooking, but also add another layer of flavor because we're going to have the roasted pepper flavor, which is wonderful in here. Some of the flavor that I'm going to add into the mix for our stuffed pepper filling is going to be grated onion and grated garlic. I'm using a sweet onion here, and the reason why I'm grating it is because I'm not cooking it first and then mixing it in. So in order for it to cook in time with our stuffing, we really need it to be small. Typically when I make meatloaf or something like that, I will cook the onions and the garlic and whatever I'm putting in it as far as vegetables like celery or something. I will pre-cook it so it gets a chance to soften a little bit, and then I'll add it to the mix and bake it. In this circumstance, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to grate it so that it stays nice and small, and then I'm going to mix it into the meat raw. I'm going to have this full printable recipe on my website at indianamommy.com, so if you're looking for exact quantities, you'll be able to find it there. If you're curious about any of the equipment or supplies that you see me using here, I'll try to find links to them and put it in the description box below so you can check them out. The next step here is to take all of the ingredients and just mix them in a big bowl together. So I'm taking my ground beef, I've got about 2 pounds of it here, and I have it mixed in with the grated onion, the grated garlic, and now I'm going to put in 2 eggs. And you can see my daughter, she's 4. She's my little helper in the kitchen. She's dumping the eggs in, and then I'm going to add in cooked jasmine rice. This is leftover rice from a different meal that I made, which is what motivated me to make stuffed peppers to begin with. That's often the case, you know, when you're cooking, is what needs to get used up. But anyways, you saw me add in the rice. You could use brown rice there, any kind of rice that you like or that you have. I basically use 1 cup of rice per pound of ground beef when I make this. Then I added in a can of diced tomatoes, a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning with just a touch of granulated garlic. Now I'm just using my hands to mix this together to make sure everything's fully incorporated. I forgot to mention that there's also shredded mozzarella cheese in there. Once I have this all mixed up, I'm going to set it aside and freshly grate up some Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. I like to buy the big block of that and shred it up myself. I get it at Costco. It's a pretty decent price. It's a little bit different than regular Parmesan cheese. I encourage you to try it if you never have before. It's got a much more, I would say, stronger flavor, a better depth of flavor. It's salty and nutty. It's just fantastic. So I encourage you to try it. Now that we have all of our different components ready, I'm going to work on assembling. I'm taking a 9x13 casserole dish with high sides. I'm lining the bottom of it with just canned tomato sauce. You could definitely use marinara sauce here, or any red sauce that you have on hand. And then I'm going to take my trigger released ice cream scoop and fill up the peppers. Each half of pepper takes about 2 scoops. And the only trick here is that you really want to make sure to push it down in there so that the filling gets into all the crevices. Once I get them all filled up, I'm going to top them with the remainder of my tomato sauce and then the Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. I'm going to cover this and bake it for about 45 minutes at 350 degrees until the meat is cooked through. You're looking for an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and that will, basically that means your meat is cooked. Then I'm going to take the tin foil off the top and bake it uncovered for an additional 15 to 20 minutes until the cheese gets nice and browned on top. Sometimes what I like to do is let it go for that 15 minutes and then just do the last few minutes with the broiler on to get a nice crispy top on it. I think that works really good whenever you're trying to get some cheese nicely browned on top of something. The broiler is an awesome tool for that. The trick here when you cover it is you want to make sure that the top doesn't touch your cheese. So just make sure to kind of lift that foil up a little bit before you seal the edges so that the top isn't resting on there. And then another trick is put it on a cookie sheet just in case it wants to bubble over. It'll save you the hassle of having to clean that up later. And I speak from experience with that. So this is what it looked like when I pulled it out of the oven. I finished it up under that broiler and got a nice crispy crust on top. I let it sit for about 10 minutes before I pulled it out. I just find that helps it set up a bit better. It doesn't want to fall apart. So each serving is 1/2 of a pepper. And I find that my husband eats 1.5 peppers. I eat 1. My kids usually split 1. So this is a great meal to make ahead. It really does go far. You can see that it's fully cooked inside. It's nice and moist. There's a good amount of juice. The funny thing about that juice is if you let it sit until the next day with leftovers, it soaks it all up. It's pretty interesting. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like this printable recipe, please go to indianamommy.com and do consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.